Rebirth+Sand Sculpture+Entertainment Circle+System+Live broadcast Xiao Xiu is dead. After death, she was bought her soul by a place called a female supporting training camp and needed to enter a dog blood kidney pulling article called Love Her. Love Her. Cold and ice Mr. Goo flies pets and kisses to become a female supporting character. She worked diligently and committed suicide. The garbage plot asked her to take the blame for the female lead and accept the full online blackmail. Xiao Xiu instantly posted a Weibo post. Did I provoke you? A bunch of incompetent people. The garbage main line asked her to live stream the famous celebrity in the Lianmai entertainment industry. Xiao Xiu put an emoji on her face and said, "Then you should die." The garbage plot made her cause trouble while the male lead confessed, and Xiao Xiu switched the LED screen background directly after Xiao Balian said, "But I have kidney failure." New anchor Xiao Xiu's first day of broadcasting. A beautiful trash, can only see a face, I don't know why I chose her. New anchor Xiao Xiu has been broadcasting for 1 month. One-click query of the anchor's mental state. The anchor didn't commit any disrespect today, feeling uncomfortable. I beg you, if you go and cause trouble, I will give you all the money. New anchor Xiao Xiu has been broadcasting for 6 months. Digging for a slot, is the crazy anchor in the top 3. What? Does Xiao Xiu's dog come second? I'll go. Xiao Xiu comes first. Who said no reward? Who is carrying the weight forward? Who is secretly charging money? Today's heart rate is 0, do you think of sudden cardiac arrest? No, because I'm a ghost. Keywords of the novel. Female supporting training camp. Kill the female lead and successfully ascend without a pop-up window. Female support training camp. Successfully took down the female lead and ascended to the top. Download the complete set of TXT, female supporting training camp. Successfully took down the female lead and rose to power. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1, I regret to inform you that you have died, Xiu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1, I regret to inform you that you have died, Xiu. I am System 1128 of the Women Supporting Training Camp. I regret to inform you that you are dead. The low and unassuming voice of the little boy echoed in the closed and uninhabited aperture, word for word, reaching the ears of another person in this aperture. Xiao Xiu looked expressionlessly at the little boy in front of her with a doll face floating in the air, indifferent to what he had just said. What else? Unfortunately, you have been selected by our female support training camp and need to randomly enter a book as the female support to complete the tasks released by our training camp. Refusing will result in you being thrown to feed the little ghost. This is the first time Xiao Xiu wants to use the word cheap to describe a child. Half an hour ago, she died. She died at her graduation ceremony, and before she had time to celebrate with 180 male models, she hastily passed away from the sea of learning. Before she died, she was still holding a pile of certificates in her hand. The crystal light on the ceiling fell off when she was at her brightest smile, and she was directly smashed to death. She died so badly that she even choked before an ambulance arrived. After death, she didn't even have any buffer time left for her, so she directly teleported here to face this guy who claims to be a big system. So the result of being selected by you is that I have to be a cow that has been on standby for 26 hours without rest, right? Xiao Xiu concluded sharply. But if this stupid system wants to pull her to work for free, it's just a daydream. She can still get a scholarship at school. No, 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 how could you think that way? After you promise, you will receive supreme money in the future, and will be the hottest new star on the future Defu video live streaming page. 1126 heard Xiao Xiu say this and was not happy. He started talking nonsense seriously, and the last sentence was even more direct and coaxed out. Stupid, MLM leader. Is this? Oh, and by the way, according to what he just said, emotions still require her to live stream and die. It's just drawing big pancakes. What would happen if I don't take the plot seriously? Xiao Xiu first summarized the true meaning that he wanted to convey in the long paragraph of 1126, then changed his tone and looked at the other person with a smile on his face. The little boy seemed well prepared. Upon hearing her words, he quickly pulled out a crumpled paper from his pocket and slowly read the contents of the paper: Soul Contract, Party A, Female Supporting Training Camp, Party B, Xiao Xiu. The soul was purchased by the Female Supporting Training Camp, and the Female Supporting Training Camp has all the control of the soul. His words were spoken intermittently for a long time, and Xiao Xiu's expression remained unchanged from beginning to end. In the end, he concluded, overall, you are a soul that our training camp bought from Yan Wangye. We have the right to command you to do anything, and if you don't listen, we have the right to execute you, but... Speaking of this, he suddenly lengthened his tone and increased his voice. Our female support training camp is very humane. As long as you complete the task seriously, work hard to die, work hard to promote the relationship between the male and female leads, you will live well. We will also give you a salary to live a fulfilling life, with 180 little milk dogs on your left and 198 big wolf dogs on your right. It's not rare, I feel uneasy holding the money for selling myself. 1126 was furious and said, then I'll throw you to feed the little ghost. Come on, I've cried and laughed before, but I'm not afraid. 3 seconds later, Xiao Xiu's screams were heard inside the empty closed aperture. Congratulations on successfully allowing me to experience what it means to be afraid. Let go of me. I'll participate. Xiao Xiu's face turned pale, but she still had to pretend to be tough. At the moment when her words fell, the feeling of her soul being torn instantly disappeared, and the piercing pain dissipated rapidly, as if the pain just now was just her illusion. Damn it, it's cloudy. Live to be a learning animal, and die to work as a social animal for others. Almost at the moment when she finished speaking, a small window suddenly appeared on a live streaming page of a website called Difu Video app. The title in the upper left corner of the live stream was Xiao Xiu, a newcomer to the female supporting training camp, died online. A little ghost entered this live broadcast room at lightning speed under the nickname, the female supporting training camp is closing down quickly, and even before they had a chance to see the live broadcast footage, they started outputting. Isn't it true, isn't it? How dare the female support training camp open a live stream? If there hasn't been a capable newcomer in over a decade, it's okay. Even the boss is running away and wants to open a live stream for money. The previous anchor, who was broadcasting very well, insisted on terminating her contract and becoming a free ghost, wasting the 80,000 coins I gave her as a reward. His words resonated with other successors, who, upon seeing his words, also began typing bone keyboards with a crackling sound. At first glance, this newcomer is the kind of useless person who can only rely on her beautiful face to cheat some lecherous money. We will definitely not give her a penny as a reward. The female supporting training camp is not worthy of earning my hard-earned money. With so many teams, the female support training camp is the most garbage, and this time it has bought a new soul. As 1126 watched these crazy barrage of slandering his boss and team pop up, his snow-white little face furrowed and he whispered, if you look down on us, don't look at us. If you look down on us, you still have to look at us. It's hard to find pleasure for yourself. At this point in time, Xiao Xiu had successfully landed in a novel called Random Matching, with a rough plot line about the novel in her mind. It is a very old and outdated, cold and domineering CEO who falls in love with a bankrupt daughter, a brainless sweet and cruel novel. Imprisonment, heart-wrenching, running with a ball, and the return of white moonlight are all familiar plotlines in this book, and even awakening a new female protagonist through miscarriage. But these have nothing to do with her. She is bound to the female supporting system, and she is just a cannon fodder female supporting. Her main task is to push the protagonist's emotional line, work hard to die, and crazily trample on the bottom line of the male and female leads. For example, in one of the classic plots, she needs to drive it. After a one-night stand with the male lead Goose, the female lead Yi Miao Miao quickly ran clean before Goose woke up, making it difficult for Goose, who was worth billions, to find him. Wherever it is placed, it is a very explosive existence. Afterwards, Yi Miao Miao became pregnant and didn't want Goose to discover that he had his child, so he hid his pregnant belly. At this point it was time for Xiao Xiu to appear. The operation was as fierce as a tiger, and upon seeing the result, the two of them looked at each other endlessly, even falling for the title of wanting to cause Yi Miao Miao to miscarry. Indeed, he is very mentally disabled, Xiao Xiu commented in her heart. The weather in May was slightly hot, and walking forward against the sun was very sunny. Xiao Xiu compromised and chose a path with a green belt to walk on. Xiao Xiu walked slowly along the shade of the tree, looking at the little boy floating in front of her, muttering something in a low voice. She asked, "What's wrong? Did I suddenly feel like a highly intelligent genius like me came to this kind of novel as a genius?" 1126 remained silent for a long time without giving her an explanation, but instead directly showed her a backstage scene in the live broadcast room. The scene inside was very familiar, and the protagonist was also very familiar. She is herself. They're right, Xiao Xiu squinted as she watched the malicious barrage and made some insincere comments. 1126 If struck by lightning, they're just cursing you. How can you agree with their words? The one who cursed is the female support training camp, and it's your boss who's going to die. What's the relationship with me? Why, does the boss even give my company dividends? I don't know if 1126 was really angry with her words, or if it was just such a coincidence. After throwing these words out, I saw a newly added taskbar on the back-end page, which was now displaying a new task in a daze: get in the car of the villain heading to the male lead's company. Well, how to put it, it's difficult to evaluate. Who is the villain? How should she persuade the other party to open the car door for herself, and what kind of villain would allow a completely unfamiliar person to enter her car? 1126 can also check Xiao Xiu's backstage. Seeing a hint of embarrassment flashing on Xiao Xiu's face, he was in a good mood and patted her chest. "Wait for me to help you see who the villain in this book is," he said 10 seconds later. 1126 found out, and his expression stiffened slightly as he looked at the familiar face on the panel. This, old, why did the boss take office again? I want a coat for my appearance, a special effect for my appearance, a medical record for my education, a physique for my physique, a collarbone for my reflexes, and a brain for my dumplings. Isn't it worth your vote for someone as outstanding as me? End of this chapter. Chapter 2. I think she has great potential to be a fool, Xiao Xiu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. I think she has great potential to be a fool, Xiao Xiu. After waiting for a long time, Xiao Xiu didn't see him say anything and spoke out a reminder. What's going on? Did the villain die suddenly? 1126 choked and said, just. There's also a system across from me, and that system has some connection with me. Xiao Xiu. What kind of friendship? She's my wife. 1126 blushed and slowly lowered her head, her two little fleshy hands constantly pointing towards her fingertips. What kind of century joke is this? This person doesn't seem to be 5 years old. Why do they have a wife? How does this make her, who has been a solo for over 20 years, survive? Xiao Xiu silently slandered the other person in her heart. Before she could finish cursing, the panicked voice of 1126 suddenly came out, smoothly disturbing her thoughts. Xiao Xiu, the villainous boss is coming soon. Are you ready? Come on, life or death is up to fate. If the villain is unhappy and kills me, it's considered a work-related injury, right? Can the team be resurrected? 1126 fell silent. He hasn't even reached the level of resurrection yet. As he watched Maybach suddenly come to a stop on the roadside, he spoke again and lifted his chin towards Xiao Xiu. "Get in the car, I've already dealt with it," he said so smooth. Su Xiao was skeptical and reached out to open the door of the black Maybach. As soon as the door opened, she heard a magnetic low voice, "Sit back." "Okay," Su Xiao squeezed out a smile and gritted her teeth. At this moment, the barrage in her live broadcast room suddenly exploded, and the speed of the barrage was extremely fast, making people dizzy. Isn't this the anchor next door's villain who must counterattack? Isn't it true that Jiang Ke has earned enough money and doesn't want to make money anymore? Is this bankruptcy? It is indeed bankrupt. I recently bought a new soul and spent 10 million ghost coins. As Jiang Ke drove, his mind still remembered what 1126 had just said to him, "Boss, your newly purchased little ghost soul has already been launched, and the live broadcast has started. Coincidentally, she has been assigned the same novel as you. Unfortunately, she needs to take your car to the male lead Goose company." After talking for a while before getting to the point, Jiang Ke sneered and mercilessly refused, "No passengers." "Just kidding, he just spent a few million yuan to pick up the car and just started driving for a while, it's impossible at all." Su Xiao said she is willing to pay 100,000 yuan for the ride, said 1126, who is well aware of her boss's temperament, "Come up." Very crisp and sharp. Su Xiao, who knew nothing, owed a huge sum of money without a penny. Jiang Ke's driving speed is not only fast but also very stable. When getting off the car, Su Xiao sincerely commented, "Not bad, you can take the bus now." "Thank you." Jiang Ke quickly closed the car door and walked in the same direction as Su Xiao. His current task is to join the company of the male lead Goose. However, to his surprise, on the way to the male lead's company, he also encountered another type of anchor for the same novel, and this anchor was actually his employee. "Let's see if the little ghost I spent 10 million on can earn this money back for me. Just got stuck in the first step of the task of smashing the scene on my own doorstep. He is unable to enter the door." "Sir, you can't go up without an appointment," said the receptionist with a polite smile. Su Xiao stood quietly on the side, watching as Jiang Ke walked away with a dark face. She then approached calmly and said, "Didn't Goose want to find a woman? I'm that woman. If you're looking for me, you have to let me in, right?" Su Xiao just started talking nonsense and directly used the identity of the female lead. The current storyline of the original book is that after the one-night stand between the male and female leads, the male lead crazily investigates the woman who took away his first night. The news spreads extremely quickly, and the whole Jinghai is discussing who is so lucky. Su Xiao knows that using this excuse alone may make it difficult to enter Goose company, but it doesn't affect her. She is the daughter of the Su family. Yes, her character is by Fu Mei, a cannon fodder supporting actress. Having money, beauty, and education, but lacking taste, I have fallen in love with a man who doesn't like me. After informing the other party of her identity again, Su Xiao successfully entered Goose company through coercion and inducement. Before entering, she even smiled and brought the handsome man who looked like a thief in Maybach. As the name suggests, her small white face brought a stroke of luck to Goose. Amidst the skeptical gaze of the receptionist, Su Xiao slowly walked inside. Jiang Ke followed her into the company with a dark face. As soon as two people entered the company, they almost received a new task reminder at the same time. Jiang Ke immediately opened the background to check the new task. He received the task of mocking the female lead Goose while she passionately portrayed her feelings for him, occasionally brushing her presence, which was very simple. But the task Su Xiao received was somewhat outrageous. The specific absurdity is that she needs to hold Goose, who fell to the ground due to fever, to a tearful confession scene. Wouldn't her sharp acting really leave a shadow in Goose heart? But the sky is going to kill her, she has to do it. As soon as the door to the top floor office was pushed open, Su Xiao saw a very dramatic scene. Goose, who was originally standing well, suddenly fell to the ground with a limp foot. Speaking quickly, Su Xiao slipped over to Gu Xinyan's back, holding the back of his head with both hands, and suddenly opened up. Gu Xinyan. Gu Xinyan. You must not have anything wrong. What should I do if something happens to you? A world without you is like eating fried chicken without tomato sauce, barbecue without beer, pig trotters without hooves, chicken trotters without claws, crayfish without shrimp. She shed tears as she spoke, as if she was about to part ways with her lover whom she had loved for 18 years. In fact, I was muttering to myself. Is this always okay? How much more affection do you need? How else should I confess? She has already thought about all the sad things she has lived her whole life, and if she were to do it again, she would really be unable to bear it. After her explosive acting performance, her live broadcast room fell silent for an instant, even the ghost scolding her fell silent, staring blankly at Su Xiao on the screen. Her prominent blood-red eyes slowly slid out of her eyes. A few seconds later, the barrage begins to output, quietly ask, is this anchor really in a good mental state? I laughed so hard that my teeth spurted out. How could I handle such a useless acting? Shouldn't it be said or not? Isn't it really because she was holding back her smile and feeling too uncomfortable that these tears came out? Ghosts and ghosts, haven't you noticed Gu Xinyan's expression of eating shit on his face? I laughed my eyes off, Looking at Su Xiao squatting on the ground with both hands supporting Gu Xinyan, Jiang Ke glanced expressionlessly at 1126 floating in mid-air, serious and serious, do you think she can really make me break even like this? I won't just float for 10 million without hearing a sound, right? 1126 remained silent for a long time. I think she has great potential to be a fool. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Handsome and sharp facial features like knives, minor repair. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Handsome and sharp facial features like knives, minor repair. Su Xiao's acting skills are comparable to a rapid flood, coming and going quickly. After crying twice, she couldn't shed a single tear because she cried too hard just now. In the end, she even hiccuped twice, making Gu Xinyan's silence take it to the next level. Gu Xinyan, who was held by Su Xiao on the back of his head, lifted his eyelids and spat out a few cold words on his thin lips, I'm feeling dizzy, not in the late stage of lung cancer. I don't know, do I? Do you think it's necessary for me to perform such a glaring scene if it's not for completing the task? Is that right? I thought your life wasn't long, Su Xiao said with a fake smile on her MMP face, what are you doing? Suddenly, a sharp voice interjected, and the ghosts in Su Xiao's live broadcast room shouted in unison, the female lead is on stage, look at how she's being cheap. Su Xiao looked at the place where the voice came from and saw a woman wearing a yellowed white dress standing at the one-way glass door, her watery eyes filled with unbelievable and clear foolishness. Is this the protagonist of this article, Yi Miao Miao? That inspirational single-parent mother who doesn't want to accept the male lead's relief and struggles alone in the entertainment industry. The little innocent who needs his biological father's bone marrow surgery because his child is sick, and then runs to the male lead side to please him in all aspects, finally realizing that no matter how much he tries to please him, it's not as effective as sleeping. Looking at the two security guards following behind her, Su Xiao felt a clear sense. This should be the male protagonist's company, where the gods come to block the gods and the demons come to block the demons, but they cannot stop the delicate and powerless security guard with the sacred female protagonist's halo, Yi Miao Miao. That's really great. And at this moment, Yi Miao Miao came here mainly because her father ran out of money for surgery. The person she had a one-night stand with, Gu Xinyan, was the wealthiest and most likely person she knew to help her, so Yi Miao Miao came to find Gu Xinyan. Of course, this is questionable, and Su Xiaoqiang strongly suspects that it was intentional by the author. To abuse for the sake of abuse. Because Gu Xinyan didn't lend her money, the female lead went to work. After that, there was a very bloody scene. Gu Xinian went to Yi Miao Miao's clubhouse where he worked, and Yi Miao Miao, who was wearing a hip wrap skirt, served Gu Xinian wine. Then, Balabara said a lot, and the two of them argued endlessly thinking of these things. Su Xiao no longer had the intention of holding on to Gu Xinian, but just as she was about to leave, the villain who had not spoken a word to her in half a day and didn't look like a villain spoke. Gu Xinian, since you are about to die, then Min is mine. Oh my God, I almost forgot that there is also a system across from me. Since the system claimed that this person was a villain when releasing tasks, wouldn't the system bound to them be called a villain training camp? Speaking slowly and quickly, Jiang Kei's voice had just fallen, and the expression on Yi Miao Miao's face changed into helplessness and panic, as if exclusive code had been set up. However, Su Xiao's system had an extremely strong ability to adapt to changes, and with lightning speed, he re-released a task for her. When I heard that the male lead had news about other women, I burst into tears. Su Xiao. Si Nian. Who are you, Min? Why are you looking for other women behind my back? Didn't you say I was the first spare tire you considered? Which aspect of Min is stronger than me? As long as you speak up, I can give you anything, including my heart, liver, lungs, and kidneys. Can your Min do this? Ha! After countless times of secretly touching and taking her phone to school to play Tetris in her mind, Su Xiao finally burst into tears. Tears, like broken pearls, kept falling, hitting Gu Xinian's face, chin, and lips. The whole room fell silent for a moment, and Yi Miao Miao's lines, which were originally intended to be spoken, were stuck in his throat. This woman seems to have some mental health issues. Is it not good for her to come forward now? Jiang Kei remained silent for a long time, but in the end, he didn't speak up to curse. Can you really deceive money by acting like this? Will those ghosts in the live broadcast really give you a penny to brush? My 10 million is destined to be wasted, right? Is that right? Is that right? 1126 could tell that his boss was also in an extremely unsafe state of mind, so 1126 secretly checked the backstage of Su Xiao's live broadcast room. It didn't matter if he didn't watch it, as he almost scared his heart, which had not been skipped for a long time, out of his chest. Total reward amount for 24-hour live streaming room. 108866, digging trenches. Su Xiao is skilled at deceiving money. She only received a reward of 100,000 yuan in such a short time. 1126 was very excited and rushed to Jiang Kei's side while speaking, jumping up and down with excitement. After hearing this news, Jiang Kei felt that Su Xiao's acting skills didn't look as eye-catching anymore. The new member of this female supporting training camp is called Su Xiao, right? Su Xiao, you are the soul I bought for 10 million ghost coins. Anyway, the opportunity to advance from the female supporting training camp is on you. If you can get in, you have to go, if you can't, you have to go. It was impossible not to tell Su Xiao the good news 1126, so when Su Xiao heard that she had received a reward of 100,000 yuan in such a short time, she put in even more effort to perform. Gu Xinian, who is this woman? No, she can't be that Minner, right? Xinian, you answer me, if she's me, I'll kill her now to prevent you from falling in love with her. If it's not me, I'll drive her away and prevent her from seeing your handsome and sharp features like a knife. A silly appearance just released from a mental hospital. Gu Xinian, for the sake of money, I can only apologize to you. After all, men are all good, where is money important? Gu Xinian never felt extremely irritable at any time, but today, Su Xiao not only successfully made him understand what irritability is, but also gave him a taste of irritability. He felt that if he heard Su Xiao say something again, he would probably have to take out a white knife and give the other person a few more blows. Gu Xinian stood up from Su Xiao's embrace with one hand propped up on the ground. His expressionless eyes lightly glanced at Su Xiao and said, Su Xiao, what are you going crazy about today? It's okay to want to get close to him without anyone on weekdays. With so many people present today, she's so shameless. Su Xiao blinked and pretended to be innocent. Didn't you see that, Snyan? I'm confessing. I like you, Goose Snyan. She sacrificed too much for money and her precious life. Such heartless and shameless words were even spoken out loud. Jiang Ke dismantled the platform in an extremely clumsy manner, without any rough sketches. Didn't you just say you liked me downstairs? Sister, he said after finishing speaking. I let out a loud moan in my heart and almost vomited the next night's meal. How can this dog even pass this kind of task in a live broadcast room? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Meeting suspended, I go pick up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Meeting suspended, I go pick up 10 seconds ago. After Su Xiao finished saying his words of liking Gu Xinian, Jiang Ke's title was. A bounty mission drops from the sky in a live broadcast room where top streamers play villains and successfully counterattack. The bounty is as high as 1 million yuan, but the mission content is short and infuriating. Top bounty mission. Call sister. 1.8 million bounty. Jiang Ke himself despised this task very much and was very envious of the bounty that was enough to buy him 4 wheels of a car. After much hesitation, he made his decision. Shout. It's okay to argue with anyone, but absolutely not with money. He can dislike anyone, money cannot. But asking him to shout, sister, so abruptly was too much of a pressure, so when Jiang Ke heard Su Xiao's words that he knew were insincere, he hardly hesitated. His mouth was faster than his brain, and he shouted directly. As soon as he spoke, Su Xiao's face stiffened at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, this expression did not last long on her face and disappeared in a moment. Then Jiang Ke watched Su Xiao face him with wet tears on her face and said, "Little brother, don't love me. There's no result. I won't like you in my life. You just die of this heart. Thank you for the invitation." The 3 of them have already staged a big show in this office, and as the female lead of this novel titled, Love Her. Love Her. Cold and frozen Mr. Gu flies pet kisses, Yi Miao Miao has not said a word from beginning to end. Su Xiao felt like she was trying to catch the limelight, so she stood up silently and took a few steps back, leaving Gu Xinian's seat empty. The meaning expressed is very clear. Gu Xinian noticed her small movements and just as he was about to say something, the spot was occupied by someone else. The delicate and powerless girl stood timidly and stubbornly looked up at him. Gu Xinian looked at the face and instinctively searched for relevant memories about it in his mind. After thinking back for a while, he couldn't find a fragment, but the girl in front of him reminded him. I met you at Fengming Villa. Oh, I remember. It was half a month ago when he was invited by a friend to go to Fengming Mountain Villa to soak in hot springs. The girl bumped into him, tugged at his bathrobe, and touched his strong abdominal muscles. What's wrong? Gu Xinian remained indifferent and only lowered his gaze. Between the eyebrows and eyes, there is indifference. This indifference successfully pierced Yi Miao Miao's heart. Wow, is this not recognizing people after sleeping? The female lead is afraid of losing heart and going abroad with her cubs, right? Su Xiao watched the excitement from the side and occasionally gave a few explanations in her heart. As expected, consistent with her explanation, Yi Miao Miao's face suddenly changed upon hearing Gu Xinian's indifferent words. Pale and pale, for a moment panicked. Subconsciously, she wanted to turn around and leave, but thinking of her father lying in the hospital bed, she dared not lift this heavy step again. Yi Miao Miao bit his lower lip hard and spoke with difficulty, Gu Xinian, can you lend me 1 million? Puff. Su Xiao couldn't hold back and burst into laughter. She had gone through all the heartbreaks of her life in her mind, but she couldn't stop the surging strong smile. His grandmother's, what kind of cliché D plot is this? If the other party doesn't know him, speaking up is like $1,000,000 yuan. It's not like doing charity, is it? She doesn't even have 100 teeth to laugh off. But with her smile, the other 3 people in the office all turned their eyes to Su Xiao, looking at the corners of her mouth that were raised, pressed, and raised. Among them, Yi Miao Miao's face had already turned into a pig liver color. It seems a bit impolite. Su Xiao glanced left and right, and before she could come up with a response plan, she heard Gu Xinyan's voice again, so cold that it was icy cold. No, she said, all right now, she doesn't need to look anymore. Yi Miao Miao can leave directly. Her inner words were once again confirmed, and when Yi Miao Miao heard Gu Xinyan's reply, his eyes widened for a moment. Then he hung his head in despair and ran towards the office door. Sad and sorrowful. My eyes are all watery. Si Nian, who is she? Su Xiao asked with a competent attitude as a female supporting character who should go on stage to promote the emotions of the male and female leads. Gu Xinian didn't answer and snorted lightly. The meaning he wanted to express was self-evident. I don't know. Now pretend, don't cry when you know this is your one-night stand partner. She has already shed the tears she should have shed, and she has also shed the white on her watch. It should be okay to leave now. As soon as the idea came out, the sound of a 11:26 warning sounded. Little, you haven't finished pushing through the main storyline yet, you can't leave. Little. What kind of ghost is Xiao Xiu? Do you have the basic quality of not being able to give others nicknames casually as a system? Based on the presence of others, Su Xiao did not curse out these words and went to re-examine the main storyline with a forced face. This scene must let the male lead know the bar where the female lead is going to work, so as to continue with the development of the plot. In addition, in this scene, you need to successfully provoke the attention of the villain. There is one important plot that is not yet completed, so you cannot proceed with the subsequent plot. Very foolish. It's really stupid. It's really stupid. After watching the main storyline of this clip, Su Xiao had a one-click triple combo in her heart. So Su Xiao, who had already walked to the office door, forcefully turned around and walked towards Gu Xinyan's desk, with a heartless smile on her face. Xinyan, do you know? Recently, a new bar has opened in Jinghai City, with a magnificent decoration and a plethora of beautiful women. If you want to go to the bar recently, you must choose this one. Gu Xinyan flipped through a page of the document in his hand and said, what's the name? Su Xiao stuck in the case for a while and didn't connect, quietly giving 11:26 a glance. 11:26 gave her a lot of face and whispered in Su Xiao's ear, Mei Li. Charm Bar. After drinking the wine from Charm Bar, you are the most charming man in the world. Su Xiao said passionately, adding a gesture of encouragement with her palm tightly clenched and her fist's elbow pressed down. Then she turned around and walked away, forgetting the heart-wrenching scene she had just witnessed. Before leaving, she pulled Jiang Ke, who was standing still watching the play, out and left only one sentence for Gu Xinian, remember to go to the hospital or call your private doctor to come and see you later. You have a slight fever, and I have something to do now. Let's take this person who is obstructing your eyes and leave, goodbye. Before leaving, the conscientious Jiang Ke Jiang villain added a scene to himself, there are quite a few flowers and plants around you, and you have a lot of fun. After Minna returns to China, please don't go pick her up. I will pause the meeting to pick her up. Upon hearing the whole story, Su Xiao said, Is this the meeting paused for me to pick up? The two of them left the building and returned to Jiang Ke's Maybach. As soon as their buttocks got on the seat, Su Xiao spoke up, are you from the villain training camp? End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Crying and laughing, but not ugly. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Crying and laughing, but not ugly anti-faction training camp. Isn't calling this name plagiarism? If Xing Mingzi dares to change his name, he must ask him for copyright fees. Otherwise, he would have plagiarized him for nothing, but thanks to that. Jiang Kei kept calculating in her heart, as she was about to think about how much copyright fee the other party should give her. The girl's voice burst into her ear again, "Hey, hey, hey. What's going on?" Someone took it away in a while. Forced to withdraw his thoughts, Jiang Kei gave Su Xiao a displeased look. What's wrong with this little ghost? How can one casually interrupt others' thinking? I'm not from the villain training camp. Surprisingly not. After receiving the response, Su Xiao was surprised for a moment and said, "Where are you from? Is the female lead in the tragic strategy? Not to mention it, there is really that possibility. The villain either destroys the world or competes with the male lead for the female lead. The setting of destroying the world in modern literature is almost non-existent, and the most likely thing to happen is to successfully defeat the male lead and rise to power." Jiang Kei lazily leaned against the car chair, slightly tilted his head and met Su Xiao sitting in the diagonal rear, without concealing it. The name is that the villain must counterattack. Turn the table. Is it a comeback to become the male lead? What is your main task? The main task of the entire book. Su Xiao held her hand on the car window and calmly looked at him, throwing out the question that she was currently most concerned about. A book always has an ending, and when the progress of the book reaches the end, she should have a place to go as a small supporting actress who fell out of thin air, right? For example, leaving this book to move on to the next mission point, or obtaining freedom directly. Although the latter's hope is somewhat bleak. But it doesn't affect her daydreaming. Jiang Kei has bought countless souls in the past century, and this is not the first time he has heard such a question. He can immediately understand what the other person is specifically asking. It's nothing more than how to break away from the system, the main line, and this book. I know one thing. It is said that spending 1 billion cryptocurrency can unilaterally terminate a contract with your superior. The soul contract will be terminated immediately when your superior receives 1 billion cryptocurrency, no longer binding you to do anything. Billion. Billion. Does the old lady have 1 billion to eat, drink, and take care of thousands of handsome male models to give money to the boss? Is being an old lady a fool? Is money that easy to earn? This termination condition was directly passed by Su Xiao. Is there anything else? Dead boss, don't try to take a penny from her. Jiang Kei spread out his hand and looked as if he should soak in the boss. Think about it, after soaking the boss, you'll just turn over and sing as a serf, stand on the boss's head and defecate and pee. He won't even fart and has to earn money to support you. If you're angry, you'll have to coax you. If you're sad, you'll have to comfort you. If you run out of money, you'll have to give you money. So much good. But, his words sounded cold. I guess the boss of the supporting training camp doesn't like you. Su Xiao felt that she was looked down upon by others. She sneered and slapped the leather seat of the car. Don't you like me? What kind of person dares to look down on me? I'm fair-skinned, beautiful, with long legs, good looks, money, and intelligence. What's not worth liking? Is it true that the owner of the female support training camp has a unique vision, especially a love for fools? Or is it ugly? Jiang Kei choked and didn't speak for a while. Although knowing that the other party was talking nonsense, it cannot be denied that the new member of the female supporting training camp did indeed have a face of disaster for the country and the people. But it didn't harm him. Jiang Kei slammed the accelerator pedal and Maybach, who was originally parked at the door, suddenly rushed out. His voice was mixed with the howling wind, and Su Xiao focused all her attention to barely hear it clearly. In 3 months' time, the prefectural video live streaming page will hold a promotion competition. The top 100 broadcasters who receive the highest reward amount will have the opportunity to advance. With the opportunity to advance, they can participate in the next round of promotion competition, advancing all the way to the end. The top 9 broadcasters left behind can unconditionally terminate their contracts with their own teams without any restrictions. Isn't this just like the draft competition system? Su Xiao frowned. Yes, let's count it as the audition stage now. Audition. Su Xiao. How many anchors have participated? Jiang Ke counted in his mind while driving, and only gave the answer after the car passed 2 traffic lights, at least 100000. I don't know if you can pass the audition, but I definitely did. Don't ask why, I'm afraid it might hurt your self-esteem. Why else can it be? Look at my face, don't you know they're giving me a little money? Without any response from Su Xiao, the villain Jiang spoke 3 paragraphs without a pause. Then she should be able to pass as well. Growing so big, Su Xiao has cried and laughed before but never been ugly. If she can be shortlisted with just a beautiful face, then she is safe and secure. The two of them had their own ulterior motives, and no one made a sound while Maybach was driving. It was only when Su Xiao saw that the road was getting worse and worse that he made a sound and said, "Where are you going with this car?" At this moment, the scenery outside the car window was very different from when they first started on the road. The bustling city, which used to be bustling with lights and wine, had disappeared, replaced by a gloomy and terrifying deserted forest filled with towering trees. The road ahead became narrower and narrower, turning from a spacious and open asphalt road into a concrete road covered in gravel. No streetlights were seen along the way, only Maybach's own high-beam lights illuminated the road ahead. "Are you afraid you want to send her to the underworld?" "I don't know where your home is, go help me first." Jiang Ke's answer was extremely natural, without any sense of shame after not informing the main leader in advance and being asked. "I didn't promise to help you. I didn't promise to take you home either." Su Xiao. It's really Speechless. His mother opened the door for Speechless, and Speechless got home. In the end, Su Xiao compromised in her heart, as a gesture of gratitude towards the other party for sending her to Goose and Company. This compromise only lasted for a short period of time, and it completely dissipated when Su Xiao saw what specific help the other party wanted him to do. The surrounding area of the deep mountain was deserted, and the single-family villa in front of Su Xiao was the only building she had seen in the deep mountain. At this moment, in front of the building, there were rows of floating ghosts and monsters standing neatly in the air, with their feet off the ground and their faces twisted. Jiang Ke slowly closed the car door and greeted her, "Help me escort these little ghosts to the underworld. Prince Yan has been slacking off in his work recently, causing some lonely ghosts to run around. Not only did he run to the outside world, but he also ran to the world in the book. These are the little ghosts he has captured in this book in the past few days. Their strength is not strong, and their resentment is not deep. He has caught them all, so he decided to do it well and send these little ghosts to the underworld." Su Xiao gritted her teeth and said, "I don't know the way." Jiang Ke pushed open the door and entered. "Your system knows, you can ask him." After speaking, the door slammed shut. 1126, floating in the air, looked at her timidly and said, "Little, let's go. Let's go. Let's go fart, let's go fart." I honestly escorted them to the underworld without getting any fart. I'm really full and can't hold on anymore. As he said, he also wanted to enter the door. 1126 spoke up promptly and said, "These little ghosts all have money on them. You can have them come to your live broadcast room to reward you, and you'll get paid. Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. I go online to get crazy, not to pretend to love life." Long Mouth Ulcer Edition, end of this chapter. Chapter 6. A bitch who speaks ill of others behind their backs. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. A bitch who speaks ill of others behind their backs. I don't know if it was because 1126 words really hit Su Xiao's spot, and her footsteps suddenly stopped, thinking, they're not lonely ghosts. Lone souls and wild ghosts still have money to reward. 1126 nodded, then shook his head suddenly and said, even lonely ghosts have money. Don't look down on them. You show her your balance and prove that you have a wealthy wallet. The latter part of what he said was to the ghosts who were queuing up. Upon hearing his words, the little ghosts obediently took out their phones and opened a payment app. Then Xiao Xiu saw that the screen of those phones with blood stained in their hands lit up a long string of numbers. Xiao Xiu silently counted, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. Millions in her heart. What is the situation? How could a wandering ghost have so much money? Let's go. Lead the way. The speed of changing faces is comparable to that of Sun Wukong. All the balance of the payment software installed on these ghost phones was instantly filled into the Difu video app, transforming into gift effects that were all shared in the same live broadcast room. The audience of ghosts and monsters who were originally squatting in Xiao Xiu's live broadcast room witnessed with their own eyes the ranking of rewards in Xiao Xiu's live broadcast room rising all the way, directly reaching the end of the reward list. The live broadcast room with Xiao Xiu's high-definition big head photo is closely followed by a font depicting the ranking of Phnom Penh. 98th place. The little ghost with the nickname, the female supporting training camp is closing down quickly, was stunned when he saw this scene, and his hand with a broken finger rested on the bone keyboard without pressing for a while. How could you still cheat money like this? But it was indeed those ghosts who voluntarily recharged and offered rewards, and he couldn't even report Xiao Xiu for buying a navy. The road ahead was pitch black, and the mountain road in the deep night was particularly quiet and frightening. Walking on this kind of road, Xiao Xiu was afraid that she would be dragged away and eaten by the suddenly emerging ghosts. But when she thought about it, she was already a ghost. Why is she afraid of these things? Thinking about this, Xiao Xiu took big strides and even hummed a song with great joy, singing loudly. Good luck wishing me good luck brings money and happiness good luck, I'm lucky. To make a fortune with good luck, Jiang Ke, who had been following behind since Xiao Xiu's departure, almost stumbled into a mountain ditch when she heard the loud and spicy singing. What's wrong with this little ghost? Not only is his acting skills so poor, but singing a song so well makes life worse than death. 1126 drifted more and more slowly, and didn't dare to roast until she drifted to Jiang Ke's side. She seems really useless. Xiao Xiu walked ahead, holding a small wooden stick picked up from the roadside in her hand. The stick was not long, about a meter long, and she waved it around in her hand, looking like she was chasing ghosts. However, the words she uttered from her mouth had nothing to do with it. Bitch who speaks ill of you behind your back, give me a stick. As the words fell, the small wooden stick suddenly hit the ground, splitting in half. She held the remaining measure in her hand. Oh, I missed it. 1126 looked at the wooden stick that had been forcefully broken and bounced against his cheek, looking bewildered. Is this a coincidence? Can this seemingly foolish but actually very foolish woman achieve this? After pondering for a long time in my heart, I finally realized that it was definitely fake. His host is a fool. But as soon as he turned around, he saw Xiao Xiu standing in place, gently tapping the broken wooden stick in the palm of the other hand, with a smirk in his eyes. Well, that's you. 1126's expression collapsed and he slowly drifted back to Xiao Xiu's side, hanging his head and not looking at her. Seeing that her system had returned, Xiao Xiu turned her gaze back to where Jiang Ke was standing, and her tone was eerie. Big villain, are you afraid I might lose sight of your ghost? Jiang Ke's expression went blank for a moment. Not really, it's just that I caught a few more wandering ghosts. Let's go together. The fact is that someone saw their subordinates' ranking suddenly rise and became red-eyed. Quan caught several lonely ghosts and followed behind Xiao Xiu, while also pressuring and luring those little ghosts he had caught to his live broadcast room to give rewards. What are you saying? Upon hearing the answer from the ghost in front of him, Jiang Ke's voice suddenly increased uncontrollably, and his expression was very absurd. The ghost, who had lost half of its legs, said again, "Was Ji Yu Ba puts his chopsticks in front of me. The voice was played very softly, moving backwards while speaking. I'm afraid the madman in front of me will eat him raw. It's okay to pay taxes for the country before death, but after death, you still have to pay protection fees for more powerful ghosts. Jiang Ke cursed his subordinate who had robbed him of money 1,000 times in his heart, and after finally enjoying the scolding, he fiercely said to the ghost in front of him, "Give me all the rewards, and I'll take you home." "I know Lu who's going home." The little ghost spoke weakly, and halfway through his words, he nodded honestly at the cold gaze of Shangjiang, Quebec. "Okay. It's exhausting." The task of Su Xiao sending off ghosts was very simple. Before reaching the entrance of the underworld ghost gate mentioned in 1126, it was not yet 12 o'clock. She waited in place for a while before opening the ghost gate. I don't know why, but as soon as the cold and eerie ghost door opened, many ghosts and monsters rushed out wildly, running very fast in her direction. The person she was looking for was not her, but the Jiang Ke villain who was closely following her. Jiang Ke held a dog-tail grass picked casually from the roadside in his mouth and greeted the crazy little ghosts rushing towards him with a smile. "Hi!" The response to him was a ghostly cry, mournful and high, but not sad, with a sense of joy and joy. Su Xiao stood aside and glanced a few times before continuing forward, but silently pondered in her heart. This person is probably quite popular with these ghosts, and his name will definitely appear on the list of 100 finalists for the qualifying round. I just don't know how the other party really attracted these ghost fans. Can they really have a handsome face? So these ghosts are too superficial. As Su Xiao was walking, she was suddenly stopped by a ghost, and a ghost appeared in front of her with a broken finger in her right hand. The ghost was very clean, and her face was covered by large black hair, making it difficult to distinguish whether it was a male ghost or a female ghost. Su Xiao doesn't care much about these things, she only cares about why she came to block her way in a good way. She took a step to the left, and the other person also took a step to the left. She took a step to the right, and the other person also took a step to the right. Her reaction was agile and quick, almost as soon as she made a move, there was an action. Su Xiao smiled and hugged his chest, looking at him. What's going on? Robbing money or lust? The other party did not immediately give an answer, and Su Xiao's patience was limited. After waiting for a while, she didn't hear a response and wanted to give the other party a few kicks. However, as soon as she lifted her foot, the other party Shanshan spoke up. Are you forced to sign a soul contract? End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Epic Secondary Illness. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Epic Secondary Illness. Su Xiao lifted her foot and looked at him with interest. Do you want to help me lift it? The little ghost shook his head and said, after the soul contract is signed, there is only one way to terminate it unless it is unilaterally terminated for 1 billion yuan or voluntarily terminated by the boss. He watched Su Xiao's live broadcast, so he naturally knew about the conversation between Su Xiao and Jiang Ke, so he didn't play any tricks. I know you already know the method, which is to squeeze into the top 100 of the reward list in the qualifying round 3 months later, qualify for the competition, and then follow the human draft competition system to start the elimination round. Su Xiaoyang raised an eyebrow and nodded. She wants to know what this ghost wants to say to her. At that time, the ghost gate was wide open, and ghosts were constantly coming and going in the ghost market. Occasionally, a few ghosts passed by her side. The ghost probably noticed this and gave Su Xiao a glance, indicating that Su Xiao would follow him. Su Xiao did not immediately follow, but raised her eyes to confirm with 1126 floating in the sky. She only followed after receiving a positive response from the other party. The live broadcast room should have been closed, otherwise with so many ghosts in the ghost market, it would infringe on the portrait rights of many ghosts. In the book, there is no need to pay attention to the live streaming of ghosts in the world, but this is her audience's stronghold, so there shouldn't be such a big loophole. As expected, as she slowly followed the ghost's footsteps, 1126 slowly drifted to her ear and whispered, "Little, the live broadcast room will automatically close in the underworld. You don't have to worry about what you say being heard by others. But he himself is the biggest spy." Upon hearing 1126's words, Xiao Xiu nodded in satisfaction, and the ghost walking in front of her also stopped. Quickly getting back to the main topic, did you know that your ranking just briefly reached the top 100? Xiao Xiu doesn't know. But now she knows. So Su, who was full of bones, preferred to turn the other way around. Xiao nodded solemnly and said, "I know." The little ghost choked and awkwardly coughed twice before continuing, "Some teams have already noticed you." "Oh. Is there still a team of cliques in the underworld?" Xiao Xiu. "What will happen?" "The teams I'm talking about are specialized in ensuring rankings and buying and selling. They have collected money from ghosts who have money and want to terminate contracts with their bosses but are reluctant to spend 1 billion to get lost. They need to ensure that no anchor can surpass those ghosts' rankings in the end of the game." He spoke at a fast pace, shooting out like a barrage of bullets, but Xiao Xiu knew that what he said might only be finished as quickly as possible. Xiao Xiu nodded thoughtfully and said, "So, maybe, no, I'm definitely being targeted by them. Besides completing the main task in the book, I also need to be constantly wary of anything unclean that could take my dog's life." The summary is very accurate. The ghost was very pleased to see that she could grasp the development of the matter so quickly, and nodded vigorously. "Oh. I see. Why did you tell me?" Her words changed too quickly, and the little ghost didn't react for a moment. He was stunned for a few seconds before answering, "Because I had a favorite anchor before, who was in the female support training camp and was killed by them. So when you saw me coming to the underworld through the live broadcast room, you ran to the gates of hell to guard me." Xiao Xiu looked at him with bright eyes. The little ghost nodded seriously. He did indeed intentionally guard it. Knowing what she wanted to know, Xiao Xiu was also satisfied. She slowly turned around and walked towards the way she was coming. She waved her hand in the air and said, "Thank you. Don't worry, I should be your next favorite anchor at the female support training camp." The little ghost was taken aback and slowly lifted his slightly drooping head from beginning to end. His two eyes, covered by black hair, were also revealed, black and lively. "I hope so." He thought so in his heart. The task of sending ghosts home ended when Xiao Xiu arrived at the underworld, and 1126 people took action to solve it without her intervention. I suddenly realized that this system is a bit versatile. Money is also a bit easy to earn. The final resting place for Xiao Xiu was in Jiang Kei's living room, which was spacious and spacious. There were not many furniture placed in the living room, but a slightly spacious sofa was provided for her to sleep on. Xiao Xiu's sleep quality was so good that it exploded. As soon as her head hit the sofa pillow, her eyes closed, causing Jiang Kei, who was secretly observing her from the side, to shudder. "Do ghosts still need to sleep? Goose, your little wife has all fallen into my dream. Take a look at how outrageous what you have done." The next morning, Xiao Xiu woke up leisurely, raised her hand and rubbed her eyes, her mouth chattering incessantly. She had a dream at night, not that she suddenly became wealthy, nor that a bunch of handsome guys were flirting with her, but that the female protagonist in this novel fell into her dream and cried all night long. "I used to think you were a self-centered person. I didn't expect. With so many women around me, my first night was like feeding a dog in her dream." Xiao Xiu stood beside her and, upon hearing her words, casually answered, "Isn't he looking for you? Tell him, your father has money for surgery, and your future child will also have a father. It is also worthy of being a brainless boss, and even children can easily conceive. It is also a true novel." Her words are like sinking into the sea, without any response from the other party, fearing that the female protagonist will awaken. "I dare not let go of a dream. Su Xiao spat out her tongue in disgust and sat down next to Yi Miao Miao, earnestly saying, "Don't go to the bar to work." What truly came to Yi Miao Miao's ears was, "Don't work." Yi Miao Miao looked puzzled. How could she raise enough money to perform surgery on her father without working? Su Xiao didn't know and said, "Don't be too cold or too warm with Goose. Just push him directly and he'll know you're that person just by taking a nap." This paragraph has been almost completely deleted, leaving only a few brief and nonsensical words. Don't be too cold or too warm. Take a nap. Yi Miao Miao was even more puzzled. What is this all about? What's asking for warmth and comfort, what's taking a nap? Su Xiao thought she had done a great job of persuasion, and could easily pull a person who was about to go astray out of the abyss. It wasn't until her drowsiness gradually subsided that she stopped talking and stood up to pat Yi Miao Miao's shoulder. She said earnestly, "Be yourself, don't rely on men." In Yi Miao Miao's ear, only one word remained. Damn it. She woke up satisfied. But Yi Miao Miao woke up in a daze, sat on the narrow bed, pondered for a long time, and finally came to the conclusion that it might be because he had been overworked recently and had dreamt of encountering a fool at night. And the little ghosts who were crouching in the live broadcast room and saw the whole process were about to burst into laughter, even though they didn't need to breathe. Does this anchor have an epic second-level illness that is said to exist both in heaven and on earth? Does she think she has become a life mentor once? You ignore me today, but you still turn a blind eye to me tomorrow. No reader version. End of this chapter. Do you think I look like a fool in chapter 8? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Do you think I look like a fool in chapter 8? As soon as she woke up, Su Xiao humbly checked her back end and saw a new task added to the taskbar at the moment she clicked in. Your parents are furious because you didn't go back at night, and the monsters in the family are currently stirring up a relationship between you and your parents. You need to go to the Su family immediately to stabilize your position in your parents' hearts, or make your parents no longer angry. The process is unrestricted, and the result is successful. His grandmother's. As soon as she woke up in the morning, she was asked to go to work. Su Xiao slowly stood up from the sofa dragging her tattered body and shouted weakly, "Jiang Ke." At the scene of tomb sweeping, ancestor worship, and soul calling during the Qingming festival. The name is a simple and easy to remember name that she inquired about from 1126. At the first sound, no one responded, and Su Xiao shouted again, "Jiang Quebec." The response to her was the sound of someone forcefully opening the door. Jiang Ke's angry voice came from the second floor, "Are you sick?" Su Xiao pursed her lips and said weakly, "Take me home." This time, there was not only the sound of opening the door, but also the sound of Tingting briskly walking downstairs. In the blink of an eye, Jiang Ke appeared at the corner of the stairs with a gloomy expression, "Do I owe you something?" Su Xiaoli was furious and said, "The basic requirement for a driver to take on a job is to provide transportation. I have already done what you asked me to help with, so what's wrong with sending me back?" Jiang Ke originally wanted to say something, but suddenly a new task popped up in the background, which was similar to Su Xiao's just received task. Ren Min returned to China today, and Gu Xinian will go pick her up. You need to go and have a beard cut. If you can't, it's okay. It's best if you can. In simple summary, it is necessary for him to brush Gu Xinian's hatred value. If he succeeds, Gu Xinian's hatred value will be high, but if he fails, Gu Xinian's hatred value will be low. It's quite cheap. Jiang Ke commented in his heart. Seeing Su Xiao across from her, she silently added a sentence to her heart. Just as lowly as his subordinate. Where are you going? Well. He successfully asked Su Xiao this question, and Su Xiao didn't want to go through the original novel again. He turned his gaze for help to 1126, who was floating not far from the crystal lamp. 1126 remained silent for a while, the villa area near Jinghai Fuxing International Airport, Ziyu Villa. The villa area near Jinghai Fuxing International Airport is called Ziyu Villa. Su Xiao repeats every word without leaving a word. That's really a coincidence. Ren Min's plane landed at Fuxing International Airport. Let's go. Seeing the goal achieved, Su Xiao suddenly smiled happily and said, okay. When I left, I touched an apple in the living room and didn't care if it was washed or not. I wiped it on my body and then gave it to my mouth. I tried to chew on the apple while inquiring about his news, feeling a bit unclear. What's your ranking now? She didn't check the ranking, but it's not impossible if she wants to see it. It's just that she doesn't want to open the backend again to check that annoying task, so she directly asked Jiang Quebec. In the early morning, there were no other cars on the road in the deep mountains and forests, and Jiang Ke drove comfortably. When he heard Su Xiao's question, he naturally changed the topic and said, it's only a few hundred times higher than you. Su Xiao treated the apple as if Jiang Ke was gnawing on it. After hearing his answer, she sneered and took a fierce bite of the apple. The crispy and sweet apple creaked as she bit it. I'm afraid it's not a crane tail. Jiang Ke smiled angrily, his slender and fair knuckles lightly tapping on the steering wheel, and sarcastically blurted out, Dad, on the first day of broadcasting, I broke the number of the highest reward amount on the reward list. I don't even know how many rounds I've participated in the qualifying round, and every time I've been first, there's no suspense at all. It's too boring, he said. Still feeling frustrated, Su Xiao took the last bite of the apple and happened to see a green trash can placed on the road where the car had just passed. Suddenly, Su Xiao's Xingji came up and a flying throw accurately threw the remaining apple core into the green trash can. A loud bang came from afar. She curled her lips and smiled, leaning her hand diagonally on the car window like when she came. Then you won't be so boring this time, she said with a frivolous smile on his face. He stared fixedly at Jiang Ke's profile and said, I will get the first place this time. It depends on how your father beats you. No one knew that at the moment when her words fell, the amount of tips she was giving in her live broadcast room increased by a small amount, and the increase was not significant. If you didn't deliberately pay attention to the list after the top 100 on the tips list, there wouldn't be any little ghosts noticing. The little ghost with a broken finger lay in front of his computer desk, looking at the confident face on the computer screen, just like the girl a few years ago, slowly sinking into memories of the past. I hope you can really match what you said, wearing the name of the Women's Support Training Camp team, all the way to the final. He silently thought in his heart. When we arrived at Jinghai Fuxing Airport, it was already approaching noon. According to the system, Ren Min got off the plane at this time, so I think Goose should have arrived. Jiang Ke's speed slowly slowed down, his gaze quickly scanning all the cars passing by him, and finally stopped at the black car that came in from another intersection to the underground parking lot. It's a black Cullinan. It's several million more expensive than his car. Oh, pretend to be a dog. Jiang Ke followed behind the Cullinan with a disdainful expression. Even if the other party stopped, he followed suit when the other party started driving, not too clearly. Even Su Xiao can tell how unprofessional he is pretending. Have you really never been caught tailing someone like this? It's almost like engraving, I'm following you and following you, on the front of the car. Jiang Ke snorted coldly, I've been caught many times. After a pause, he continued, but I fight pretty hard, they can't even beat me. So you're really amazing. Su Xiao stopped looking at him and shifted her gaze to the Karina in front of her. She also saw it just now, and sitting inside was the cold and powerful CEO of this book, Goose. What is rare is that at this moment, there is a faint smile on the stern and icy face. Oh, is this seeing that Min come? In this way, it makes sense why Jiang Ke, these two idiots, drove the car here. Bring her over to brush up on her experience. Did you bring me to join you on a mission without even mentioning it in advance? Su Xiao lightly tapped her chin and made a reasonable request in her opinion for a while. Alright, I'll give you half of the reward points you've received during this period. I'll reluctantly accompany you to go and brush the boss. I really used that extremely helpless tone. I don't feel at all how impolite my words are. Jiang Ke smirked and said, do you think I'm a fool? I think. Don't say it, it's quite similar. Su Xiao's expression was full of criticism. The tone is also so lacking. Su Xiao. I don't think you've been beaten before. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. I overturned the country in the city, closing the moon and shaming the flowers, sinking fish and falling wild goose. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. I overturned the country in the city, closing the moon and shaming the flowers, sinking fish and falling wild goose. The atmosphere between the two suddenly became tense again, mainly due to Su Xiao's cheap mouth. I insist on going through this moment of mouth addiction. Forget it, just wait and see. Let me go up later, you keep an eye on it. Her expression of helplessness towards the unreasonable child added to Jiang Ke's anger. He wants to see what this lowly ghost can do. During their kindergarten confrontation, their live broadcast room had already exploded. The villain must counterattack the live broadcast room. No, is Jiang de Dingliu always so funny? I also said, with a handsome and aloof face, I ended up with a silly and sick mouth, Ghosts who don't know can go and see the previous qualifying matches. Jiang Ke was quite funny before, but this time he may have been influenced by the opposite anchor, and his Do attribute is even higher than that of the second tier. Another continuous broadcast. Is the anchor's mental state getting worse and worse? The anchor is quite good at pretending. If I remember correctly, the person across from her is Jiang Ke, who has won the championship of the qualifying competition countless times. How dare she casually make her number one by surpassing the other party? Aren't she afraid of getting her face swollen? Agree with the previous point, my face probably needs to be smashed, not swollen. Su Xiao did not have the habit of constantly checking the backstage. After the people sitting in Kurinari got off the car, she quickly got off the car and followed behind Goose, looking like she was seriously ill. And Jiang Ke was responsible for following behind her and waiting for the scene that Su Xiao said to watch carefully to happen. The more he followed behind, the more embarrassed he felt. It's okay to sneak around a little, why do he still squat behind the trash can? Jiang Ke looked up at the nearby trash can for the nth time and finally couldn't bear it anymore. Su Xiao, are you being a paparazzi? Don't even the paparazzi hide behind the trash can, do they? Why didn't she just hide in the trash can? His roar was like a sinking stone in the sea, without any response. Just as he was about to shout, a thin white wrist suddenly protruded from his side, blocking his view, while the cold and delicate palm pressed against his lips. It's not strict, but he can easily kiss with just a slight movement of his lips. Jiang Ke suddenly became honest and squatted there, stiff and motionless. Sensing that the people around her had not spoken again, Su Xiao withdrew her protruding hand and earnestly said, "Don't talk. What if the domineering CEO still has a smooth ear?" The voice was very soft, almost touching Jiang Ke's ear while speaking. What does this person want? Cold and restless, Jiang Ke's mind twitched and he held back a sentence, "Did you go to the bathroom and wash your hands?" Su Xiao answered very smoothly, "I just touched dog poop, you smell it." I put my hand closer during the conversation. Jiang Ke recoiled uneasily, frowned, and said seriously, "I'm afraid of women." The voice followed Su Xiaojiang's earlier statement that it was much quieter. Su Xiao heard Jiang Ke's sudden words, which seemed inexplicable, but she also casually answered, "I'm afraid of men." "That's best," Jiang Ke said in his heart. "Here we go, there we go. Goose has made some moves. Hurry up, it's our turn." Suddenly, Su Xiao's voice became louder, with some inexplicable excitement. There was no other reason, only because she saw the legendary white moonlight that could make all the bosses fall for her. Ren Min is a very standard small family jade-shaped beauty, gentle not only in her facial features, but also in her gentle and virtuous temperament. But to be honest, Su Xiao felt that this person was not as good looking as Yi Miao Miao. Ren Min's character design in the novel is very cliché, but her annoying ability is very strong. On the surface, she appears gentle, virtuous, and charming, but in reality, she has a black heart and ruthless little white lotus. All her ambitions and sharpness are hidden under her beautiful, non-aggressive face. Yi Miao Miao belongs to the kind of person who, even if she is very beautiful, is not heartbreaking, whether it is a man or a woman. Su Xiao knew everything she would go through next, but still didn't feel any pity for her, only felt very sad. Perhaps it is because Yi Miao Miao is too innocent in the author's writing. The earlier scenes of body abuse were quite bloody, as can be seen from just a few examples. She voluntarily went for the loss, the abortion was for revenge, and the person who retaliated was the wrong person. So she can't blame Goose, nor can she blame the person who retaliated against her. She can only blame herself for giving herself to Goose before reaching a dead end, and seeking revenge in advance before the truth surfaced. Su Xiao pulled Jiang Ke towards Goose side, and as she was about to reach the two of them, she urgently released Jiang Ke's hand. She took 2 big steps forward and grabbed Goose hanging arm, causing her buttocks to tilt and squeezing Ren Min to the side. The culprit, who had done all of this, had injuries all over her eyebrows. Goose, is this your Min? Is that right? Is that right? How could you do this? I'm also a fish in your pond, isn't I? How could you leave me to find another fish? She knows it's cheap for her to do this, but she just lacks the quality. This world has already treated her like this, she will go crazy if she continues to endure like this. The best way to prevent mental breakdown is to torture others and lead them to go crazy with oneself. Su Xiao used a considerable amount of force and pushed Ren Min out a few steps in one breath. When she regained her senses, a fleeting malice flashed in her simple and calm eyes. Who is this person? She has only been studying abroad for 3 years, but is it surprising that Snayan already has a woman who can behave so recklessly by his side? Ren Min curled her fingertips and spoke softly, Sister, Sinian just treats me like a younger sister and has no other meaning. Words are spoken with gritted teeth. The posterior teeth are almost being bitten apart. Su Xiao's expression was as it should have been. I'm just saying, I'm beautiful, like a drowned fish and a fallen goose, with a closed moon and shy flowers. I have a natural and human demeanor, like flowers and jade, and a graceful lady. How could Snayan not look down on me and run to find someone else? Speaking of this, she let out a slow sigh, her tone slowed down, and she said slowly, Oh, I can understand. After all, someone like me who is rare to meet in heaven must be cherished when I meet someone on earth. Gu Xinian, who was pulled up by her sleeve, quietly watched Su Xiao finish a big play alone, without making a sound from beginning to end. It wasn't until he was certain that Su Xiao had finished speaking that he spoke and said his first sentence after Su Xiao and Jiang Ke arrived here, Are you all sick? Directly mobilized Su Xiao's emotions to the highest level. I'm lost, Gu Xinian, the imposing and domineering CEO who doesn't eat worldly pleasures, is now able to curse people. She still cursed her best words. Rare. Why didn't you inform her in advance that the character design of the protagonist in the book will change with the plot of this trash plot? I, green tea rice dumpling, swear here today that I can only eat 3 meals a day if I don't finish it. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Collecting the Ashes of Your Boss. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Collecting the Ashes of Your Boss. As her idea emerged, 1126, floating in the air, suddenly spoke in an urgent voice, Little, the overall system has issued a reminder, It says that the protagonist in the book shows signs of OOC and needs me to report the specific reason. Speaking of the later part, he even wore a hint of crying, and Su Xiaodang understood. This so-called overall system should be the ultimate boss that surpasses all systems and even his boss. Otherwise, as a system with a boss, even if mentioning his own boss in 1126, Su Xiao would not have seen him in such a hurry. 1126 has a strong fear of this overall system, and the ultimate source of fear comes from insufficient strength. Su Xiao made a reassuring gesture to 1126 in secret, and then, taking advantage of the convenience of moving forward, she suddenly stopped on the safety railing beside her, rested her hands on it, and turned her back to Goose. It was not only Su Xiao who received this news, but also Jiang Ke, who completed the task in the same novel as her, was not left behind by the overall system. After listening to the words conveyed by her own system, Jiang Ke quickly understood Su Xiao's sudden action. At least one of them should give a response. Since Su Xiao has done so, let her be the one to do it. Believe her for now. Goose saw Su Xiao take the initiative to leave his side, and his face slightly softened. However, his face, which had just softened a bit, became cold again after scanning Jiang Ke again. This person is very cunning. A month ago, their two companies were competing for the same profitable project. Due to the mistake of their subordinates, this person missed the right to compete for this project. And because the strongest opponent disappeared, Gu Xinyan's process of winning that project was very easy. That was their first encounter, and Gu Xinyan thought this matter would pass like this, but he didn't expect that the day after he took over the project, the company's elevator had problems. More than one elevator had problems, and the entire company's elevators all had problems at the same time, making them unusable for human use. Because the maintenance personnel were not repairing at such a fast pace, he was eager to go to the top floor for a meeting. That morning, Gu Xinyan, the president of the Tang Gu group, climbed 21 floors alone and reached the conference room at the last second of the meeting. Finally, it was found that Jiang Ke bribed their company's cleaning lady, who stayed up at midnight and pushed a small electric donkey into the elevator, damaging the inner wall of the elevator. The tossing and turning of one elevator after another successfully caused all the elevators to fail. When Gu Xinyan learned about this, his hair was so angry that it almost stood up. The document in his hand suddenly slammed onto his desk and he said, "Where's the security guard? Are you dead?" The secretary who reported shook her body and spoke cautiously, "Also. I was bribed. Now they have all resigned, and Jiang Ke has also transferred the corresponding compensation to the company's account." Gu Xinyan forcefully closed his eyes and finally suppressed his anger. Just as he was about to drive his secretary out, he heard the female secretary lower her head and stutter. Most of the potted plants placed on the 1st to 20th floors of the company died overnight. What? Gu Si gently rubbed his temples, his eyes slightly narrowed. The female secretary knew what he was asking, and after silently reciting "My Buddha's mercy" 3 times in her heart, she said, "All that dies are wealth trees." On that day, the Gu group was brightly lit all night, and Jiang Ke received news that Gu Xinyan urgently held a meeting in the middle of the night, and heard his subordinates scold him all night. Jiang Ke, who had a thick face like a city wall, turned his head and forgot about this matter. The reason he still remembers it now is because Gu Xinyan treated him with his own way. A few days ago, he was discussing business and invited the project leader to a 5-star restaurant for a meal. As a result, when everyone was seated, the hotel staff brought him 18 plates of pickled cucumbers in a row. The huge round table had no other dishes except for the green pickled cucumber with seasoning. Compared to using boiling water to drown other people's wealth trees, there are no more mistakes than him. The grudges between the two were also cleared up in this way. Now he has come to intercept the Hu family's beloved again, and it is estimated that Gu Xinyan will have to give him 20.8 plates of cucumbers in one go. Looking at Ren Min, who was maintaining a polite distance from Gu Xinyan, Jiang Ke's smile was like a spring breeze, with a warm temperament. "Minner, you just returned to China today. Do you want to go eat with me? Of course, it's okay if you refuse me for anything else, after all, business is more important than food." After finishing the first sentence, he added another insincere sentence. Ren Min looked at this senior student from her college years, with a smile on her lips and a hint of apology. Mr. Jiang has this intention, and Min Air is already very happy, but Min Air does have something important to attend today. She doesn't have time to have this welcome banquet with Brother Jiang Quebec. I'm really sorry, she said as the words fell. She slightly bowed in apology. Install it, you can install it. Later, turn around and run to a 5-star hotel with Goose. Jiang Ke rolled his eyes very inconspicuously and spat inwardly. The person across from her obviously didn't think so much, just pondering in her heart whether she was right or wrong in this move. At the age of only 26, Goose has already independently controlled billions of assets, and although Jiang Xuechang comes from a decent family, she still has some shortcomings compared to Goose. Just the status of Goose and Jiang Ke in their respective companies makes her choose Goose. More than 50% of the shares of the Gu Group are held by Goose, while Jiang Ke, the Xingshi group of the Jiang family, holds only 35% of the shares and does not have the right to veto anything. She can't be wrong. Ren Min repeatedly reminded herself in her heart. On the other side, Su Xiao lay on the safety railing, staring at 1126, which was drifting in the air and spinning anxiously. Why are you so afraid of that main system? Can it just sell you? 1126 spoke up with a serious tone. Well, not only can it sell me, but it can also throw away my ashes. What's wrong with that? Didn't you die long ago? If you raise it, the next one will be even better. Su Xiao raised her hand to support her chin, feeling bored. As a system in the underworld, 1126 has the same intelligence and emotional intelligence as humans, so it shouldn't be a bunch of data. Moreover, he also mentioned his own ashes. Is there still any ashes in the data? That's not possible. If it raises my ashes, I'll really die. The system can't even handle it, and I'll be completely scared. 1126, with a small face in agony, his 5-year-old face almost revealing the vicissitudes of being 80 years old. Su Xiao pretended to be blind and only extracted one key point. Then I'll give your boss the ashes, won't he just give up? I don't have to participate in the qualifying competition, do I? Jiang Ke, who had been secretly sending her own system to eavesdrop, fell into a mysterious silence when she heard the system report back. Jiang Quebec. End of this chapter.